is icasnews.com, and this is Out of Africa, live and direct from the United Nations headquarters in New York. I'm pleased to have Ambassador Raymond Wolf, a permanent representative of Jamaica to the United Nations. Ambassador, this week we did have a very busy schedule commemorating on the, I would put it like that, 30 million untold stories on the transatlantic slavery. And you was heavily involved in this initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, certainly. I'm speaking to you about an initiative which to us is of fundamental historic significance. And it's good that this is being done here at the United Nations. Just recapping very briefly, in 2006, Jamaica and the CARICOM group were given the responsibility for negotiating the draft resolution, which was adopted in November 2006, to commemorate the bicentennial anniversary of the abolition of the slave trade and slavery. On February 26th, because the 25th in 07 was a Sunday, so the Monday was the first commemorative event held at the General Assembly, and that started off as what was then the bicentennial commemoration, and thereafter, since 07, it has been an annual commemoration in remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. And you will notice that the more recent resolution since 07, it says permanent memorial to and in remembrance of the victims of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. The idea of the permanent memorial came out of a brainstorming session at my mission, at the Jamaica mission.
When was that?
That was in 06, when we were preparing for the bicentennial, because we felt that this should not be a one-off event. This is something that should have a lasting, permanent value at the United Nations, having regard to the fact that so little is known or recalled about the horrific consequences of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery, and the fact that within the United Nations, nothing much had been done to acknowledge the tragedy and to take stock of where we are today.
Can you tell me a little bit about the levels of UN involvement, since you rightly so, I would say, mentioned that this is the right place to talk about the legacy of the slavery. So which agencies? I've heard that UNESCO was
but let me say, the entire international community has signed on to the resolutions to commemorate, which resolutions are adopted by consensus every year, and it has a co-sponsorship of over 147 countries. So it is truly international in scope.
What does it mean on the practical level when you say 147 countries?
It means that
how they contribute, or
well, when you co-sponsor a resolution, you're added political weight and importance to the text. It means that your country is fully supportive of the initiative, so that you want to be identified as a co-sponsor. And we could have gotten more, but it takes a long time to get all the co-sponsors on board. But this is an initiative which has been endorsed by the international community and which has been embraced by the Secretary General, the PGA, and all member states.
President of the General Assembly.
Yes.
And when you say this is an truly international initiative, what does it mean? When they support this or sponsor this, does that mean, do they have some countries, do they have some kind of financial obligations?
Okay. No. Let me explain it this way. You asked me about the countries. We have a permanent memorial committee to oversee the project. And we have countries like Qatar, Brazil, Suriname, Netherlands, UK, Portugal, Ghana, of course Jamaica. We have CARICOM in its own right. We have Suriname as a member state. We have the African Union. We have Department of Public Information for obvious reasons, because we plan this event together and they help to promote it. And UNESCO, which I'm going to come to in a moment, and the UN Office for Partnerships. The UN Office for Partnerships oversees the UN Trust Fund for the Permanent Memorial.
Do they all speak with one voice, which is sometimes difficult at the United Nations? And
when it comes to the Permanent Memorial and the commemorative event, the answer is a resounding yes. The challenge is that to date we are relying on voluntary contributions. It's not mandatory, it's voluntary. The resolution every year invites those member states which have not yet done so to make contributions to the fund. And for those who have not yet done so, to make contributions to the fund. So to date, a total of 48 member states have contributed 900,000 plus into the account. And we're still hoping to get other contributions, but we have to work on the corporate side with philanthropists, with goodwill people, with private sector, corporations and so on, to generate significantly more funds into the account, because this is a project which is estimated at approximately $4.5 million.
So that's the target.
That's the target.
Okay.
So we're close to $1 million, but we need substantially more funds into the account.
If I may put this question, is this the kind of usual story that you have the standard contributors that are contributing to the many levels at the United Nations, or you really have a variety of them?
A variety.
So
the largest
who are the largest contributors?
The largest contributors, number one is the government of India, which have contributed $260,000, the largest single contribution of any member state. Close to that is the government of Australia, which has given 2 installments of $50,000, making a grand total of $100,000 to the fund. Then we have Finland, I think 2 contributions of $35,000 each. But there are other member states. India and Qatar.
Do you have some pledges? Or some
well,
more?
yes. As we speak, I've gotten a note, which is on my desk, that the government of Slovenia is making a contribution. And I don't want to call, I think it's either 8,000 or 9,000 euros. But that letter now is received by the UN Office for Partnerships. Now, to be quite fair to all contributors, every contribution, no matter how small or large, is appreciated. And we encourage everybody to do so. And CARICOM themselves are bound to make a contribution. We have, and I believe most of our CARICOM member states. We understand that countries are undergoing pretty difficult economic times, but we feel that this is a very important venture, very important initiative, which should be supported by the entire international community.
And when you mentioned before that the whole community, even in the General Assembly, do speak with one voice here on this legacy of the slavery, do you have some voices that are really trying to establish a kind of permanent message that is going to be repeated? Because in this world, you have to repeat messages more than several times in order to resonate, to have really echo within international community to address these issues.
Well, what we need are goodwill ambassadors and other people who have that wider contact with the international community. Because when we say the international community, we can't speak about New York. It has to be global. And just this morning, in our conversations with one of the featured artists this evening, she addressed that issue, that she bought into the concept, and she's indicated that
So you have a concept, and this is sort of slogan that is going on.
No. The concept or the slogan is the theme of the permanent memorial. And the theme is acknowledging the tragedy, considering the legacy, lest we forget. That's the message for the permanent memorial. And that's what we're using. The theme for this year's commemorative event is slightly different because every year you have a new theme. But the permanent memorial has a central theme to which we invite people to buy into. And
Ambassador, knowing that this, we passed some 400 years since this terrible event that some academics are even putting or calling like the African Holocaust or the Holocaust of enslavement. And 200 years after the abolition of this slavery, this trade of slaves, do you think that this is if I put it broadly a little bit, that these really do resonate with the some contemporary forms of slavery that are now going on, and as a message to stop that? We have a human trafficking from one side, we have treating people, human beings, as commodities on the other side. So what is the power of this message that you just
All right, let me
mentioned before?
just clarify something, because I need to be quite frank about this issue as well. Despicable and horrific as the trafficking in persons and other forms of contemporary slavery, none of this in any way, shape, or form can be compared with 400 years of the most horrific experience that was by African ancestors. And it represents the worst chapter in history. Very tragic, man's inhumanity to man, which is why most member states acknowledge that were this crime to have been committed, it should have been declared, to date would have been declared as a crime against humanity. So let us be very clear that we have to acknowledge that 400 years. We have to start there. Now, in the Third Committee and in the General Assembly, the UN has adopted a number of resolutions relating to contemporary forms of slavery, to which Jamaica has endorsed those initiatives taken by the UN. And in fact, most of our countries are implementing national legislation to guard against, to prosecute where those instances of trafficking in children, or in people for that matter, takes place. I just wanted to say that, yes, the contemporary forms must be dealt with, but the acknowledgement must be for that most horrific tragedy, which is still to be settled in terms of dealing with the consequences and the legacy.
So you're more with that who are saying that this is really war, this is crime that should need a sort of remedy. First of all, exposing the truth about this.
Yeah.
And to whom do you actually like this message to send first? To educators or
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Because the
Please.
resolution has a number of aspects. First of all, please note that UNESCO is cooperating with the Permanent Memorial Committee. As we speak, we're negotiating, or about to commence negotiations on a memorandum of understanding which will deal with the launch of an international design competition, as well as to a panel of judges that would subsequently be there to determine the artist who is to be selected. And the competition will be launched right across the globe, but particularly in the triangular section. You have to understand also that because we are part of the UN system as a member state and UNESCO's role, there had to be an educational component. So in the resolution, it speaks to educating everyone, but in particular young people, as to the consequences of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade, which still linger, racism, bigotry, etc.
So to work with the
And to inculcate with them within our school systems.
to shape
more
and form
positive
curriculums and
Yeah, all of that, right? And somebody asked today at a press conference we had, what about an educational trust fund? That is fine. The fact is that we have to go one step at a time. But an educational component must be there, which is to say, stamp out these evils from our midst. Never again should this horrific tragedy occur, and that we must build up true justice, respect, and equality for all, regardless of race, color, or creed. This is in keeping with the Charter of the United Nations, the ideals reflected in the Charter.
so you think with this initiative actually this is more absolutely than a one-day event, even one week event?
Yes, because the permanent memorial will be going on for at least the project we're hoping will take off in earnest mid to the end of this year. And we can't place an object back on the grounds of the UN before 2013, according to the Capital Master Plan. So that is where we are. But the educational component is very important in terms of thing, and to inculcate new values and attitudes, I should add, because the world needs to come to terms with the fact that there are lingering aspects of racism, bigotry, and racial discrimination. And there's inequality between nations, sometimes, which helps to reinforce these negative images.
And of course that was one of the topics we have to mention this
Yes.
on the Durban Conference of Racism.
Yeah.
Since you are talking about the grave consequences of
Yeah.
this slavery. Again, that somebody mentioned that it is the crime, and you
Yeah.
mentioned even.
Well, just to mention to you that the permanent memorial is in fact partial fulfillment of paragraph 101 of the Durban Declaration, which called upon member states to take appropriate action in honor of the memory of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade.
And Ambassador, to sort of to wrap up, are you satisfied with this year advancement with your initiative, and how do you envision how it's going to go in next years?
Okay, first of all, I'm very satisfied this year, and I'm very satisfied with the series of activities which are held this year, both at the NGO level and within the General Assembly. On Monday, we had the film screening, which was very well attended. On Tuesday, we had the exhibition and culinary event. On Wednesday, we had the video conference for educators. And Thursday, we had NGO briefings. And today, a solemn gathering within the General Assembly, which was attended by the Secretary General and the PGA. And the turnout was extremely well. I mean, the whole, we are in conference room 4, and you know how hard it is to fill that, to fill that, to fill that room. And tonight, to cap it off, we have a number of the Living Legacy concert, which will take place tonight. I want to, before I conclude, before I wrap up, please, to all your viewers around the world, we have launched our website. You have mentioned it online. Go to the trust fund, click on the PayPal system, which will come up, and please make your contributions to the Permanent Memorial Trust Fund. We need your support. We must have your support in order to make this a truly lasting and successful initiative.
And of course, on your side is this sign of the time, I would say, Facebook and all the social
Yes.
media. You have your you have your Facebook page,
Yes.
which I understood is very well attended, very
Yeah.
well visited.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank you, Ambassador, very much
Yes.
for this
Thank you
initiative
very
and
much.
for your
Thanks for having
being
me.
guest in our program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is ICAStnews.com, live and direct from the United Nations in New York. And this was Out of Africa. I'm Errol Avlovich.